Welcome to the Horror Hangout, a podcast where film fans watch the best and worst horror movies of all time and talk about them. My name is Ben Errington, and today I'm joined by regular co-host Mr.
Andy Conduit Turner. Hello, Ben. I'm back. I'm not in London anymore. Much better lit this week after the very functional,
Oh,
constructive criticism, slightly dimly lit apartment I was in last
when
week.
when you said you're back, I was like, hang on a minute. You were here last week, and then I thought I had a terrible moment where I thought, who was I speaking to then?
No,
Who
it
was it?
wasn't. It wasn't a long legs. It was just me. But I was in a different place.
It was some sort of devil demon possessed Mr. Conduit Turner, dimly lit Conduit Turner. Now you're well lit Conduit Turner.
Yeah, back to normal. Not a dolly.
It looks like you're lit by the exact background you've got. Of course, audio. You'll have to see this on the video. He's got his background's got a little window next to it.
Lovely natural light flooding in.
Natural light flooded in. Whereas me, I'm in the dim wooden interior of what feels like somewhere in Twin Peaks. I felt like in this film, I felt like I was in Twin Peaks a lot. Did you feel like that?
It was very Twin Peaksy, and the room in your particular case where the person's doing the code breaking, the decryption feels like that decryption for a film set in the 90s. That decryption scene was sort of made in the late 70s, early 80s
Yeah,
because there's a lot of
a lot
brown
of
in
it
that
felt like
room,
that, didn't it?
a lot of wood paneling.
Incredible amount of brown, and a lot of the interiors as well in this film. A lot of brown going on, to the point where I kind of thought it was in the 70s, but then as the plot kind of unraveled, you realize, oh, we're in the 90s. Okay, I get it.
Yeah, we get
Um,
our date constantly fed to us in the form of what president's picture is on the wall at any given time.
and I might just be an idiot, but I was literally just going, "What's he doing on a wall then?" So
Yeah. Everyone's
just
flashing between Bill Clinton and Richard Nixon, the two presidents who we see pictured multiple times in this film.
yeah, they get a lot. They get a lot of screen time. So we're talking about Longlegs. And this film is done really well. It's made a lot of money, made a lot of box office, I believe, so far. It's one of the biggest movies in the world currently, apart from Despicable Me 4. Maybe they didn't anticipate um, Minions and Gru taking over, or maybe they're going for the same, not really going for the same sort of
Yeah,
audience,
what do you
right?
reckon the crossover is between Despicable Me 4 and Longlegs viewers?
I reckon there's a considerable amount of crossover.
I guess Gru does start his life as a villain,
His
notorious in his
his
field.
legs are pretty long as well.
He has quite a long legs, is Gru.
Yeah. He's got little, again, we are spoiling long legs from that whole film on this podcast. So turn it off if you haven't watched it yet. Little minions who do his bidding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gru has
Uh,
he has he has family, he has daughters. One of them may have been born on the 14th. We don't know.
that's true. That is true.
And they might be
Um,
interested in horrible dollies with a metal ball in their head. Who knows?
yeah, I know we are going to get into it, of course. We are going to cover this film in a lot of detail. Really wasn't what I was expecting based on A, the marketing, B, the trailer I'd seen, C, everything I'd read about it. I was kind of expecting something and we got something completely different, I feel. I don't think that was a bad thing necessarily because it's good when a film isn't exactly how you expect it to be, when it sort of averts your expectations in that way. But I don't know. I don't know. I still kind of felt like I wanted some of that traditional stuff, like something that made it a little bit more FBI procedural. I know we get a bit of that as
Yeah.
well. FBI procedural, or I don't know. I feel like I'm not gonna spoil anything here, Andy. I'm not gonna give
We'll
you
get
my
to that.
int
We'll get to that.
we'll get to that. But what I'm saying is there's a certain review which I'll read out before we start talking about the film, and I feel like it hit the money on the head in terms of what I needed from this. But did you identify Alicia Witt of urban legend fame?
I didn't, you know. I
Oh
didn't.
my God. So,
Alicia Witt.
Alicia Witt, urban legend, leading lady, the redhead, you know what I mean?
I'm gonna bring her up so I can take it because whenever I think of urban legend, I think of the lovely curls on the
Yeah,
villain.
but the main the final girl, if you will, Alicia Witt, played Lee Harker's mother in this film, and of course, I think she was made up to look a little bit older, and we see her a little bit younger as well. Absolutely unrecognizable. I saw Alicia Witt's name come up at the start, and I said, "Oh, Alicia Witt's in this. I wonder when she'll turn up." And after scenes she was in, I was still thinking, "When's
Anytime
Alicia
now,
Witt gonna turn up?"
anytime. There
And
she
I
is.
could not believe she was playing the mother of the main character. It is a transcendent performance. Brilliant. I mean, maybe because I probably haven't seen Alicia Witt in a film since Urban Legend. I may have, of course. Who knows? But 20 years. I know she's made up to look older, but wow, wow, outstanding stuff. And of course, talking about being made up to look older as well. Nicolas Cage, his again, we'll talk about this. The way he looks in this film has been pretty much completely hidden from all marketing. We've kind of only seen little snippets of his face, his mouth, sort of from the nose down, which was quite commonplace in scenes in this film. But we never really got a good look at him. He was covering his face with his hands, and for like 75% of the film, he's still doing that. He's walking in front of, the camera's panning behind
Just
things
like
when we
Resident
think
Evil
we've got
camera shifts, doesn't it? Always the back of his head.
always the bloody back of his head, yeah. Which is interesting. I think if they kind of led with that marketing, it would have been giving too much away. So I'm kind of glad that they didn't do that. I think it's quite nice to, it's something to look forward to. It's a nice little surprise. What's he going to bloody look like in the end? And then, of course, there was a piece of marketing which said Maika Monroe's heart rate went up to 170 beats per minute when she saw him for the first time. Not
Real big
just in
fan.
general,
Real big
not
fan.
just in, not just in a real
Well,
big
Gone in
fan.
60 seconds.
I bloody absolutely love knowing. That's a great film, that is. Yeah, it could
I
happen.
actually
It could
think
happen.
that the remake of The Wicker Man, brilliant, inspired. That's what Micah Monroe says.
Yeah, The Wicker Man. It absolutely inspired. Uh, the bees, not the booze. I mean, like Nicolas Cage. I think, like, I understand we're talking about the renaissance of his, not the renaissance, is that the right word? The renaissance,
Yeah,
the of his
Catholics out to
career.
word, but like, commit, like, believe in yourself.
I don't know. Sometimes words come out of my mouth
A
and I go, "That's not right."
resurgence, were you thinking in that? But Renaissance is
Yeah,
also fine.
yeah. Resurgence. Both of those things, not equally, but a resurgence of his career. But I'm like, well, he's made some bad films, but he's kind of consistently made quite good ones along the way, or at least had good performances in some films.
I think
And
he's
now we're
always been
watching things
memorable, and he's
like,
an actor that has turned up and done stuff. I know famously he, he had divorces and things to pay for, so he had quite a lot of debt that he basically did take a lot of films to earn money as
yeah,
to pay for things that he needed money for. But and I know, within more recent years, he said like my debts are all cleared. I can just take jobs that I want to now. But Nicolas Cage strikes me as a guy that does his best in any film that he takes. I don't think Nicolas Cage ever phones it in.
no, 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 he never phones it in, ever. And again, I think I've always appreciated him. I think the first time I would have properly become aware of Nicolas Cage, I feel like, as a kid watching films, would have been Con Air, right? Because I remember watching Con Air and feeling like I was a big bad grown up because I was watching a film where there was swearing and there was violence and there was, explosions. I
So
felt
how
like
it
a
is
big
in your
bad
house,
grown
Ben.
up.
You were a Con Air household. It was like a Sega Nintendo thing. We were a Face Off house.
Well, I like Face Off too. Face Off was a little bit afterwards. Was it like a year later? I think it might have been a year later.
Yeah, it's
To
similar
be
era,
fair,
right? Face slash off.
both of those films, Face slash Off, Con Air and Face Off, made me feel like I was a legit grown up, like I was a legit movie going grown up. Going, oh guys, have you seen Con Air? My friend's going, excuse me, what's that? And I'm going, well, you should watch it. Put the bunny back in the box. Why don't you? And they're gone, we don't know.
Qu- Quoting Castor Troy with his being
Ah,
being gross to an air
that's
stewardess at the
not
beginning.
my favorite. Oh yeah, my favorite line though is when someone is begging John Malkovich for their life, and he goes sigh, and he goes Anara. That is absolutely 10 out of 10 action film cheese. I love it. Um, so yeah, like so going back to his old roles, like Raising Arizona and stuff like that, was something that I kind of did in my teenage years. So I never saw all of his the roles that made him famous, I guess. I guess yeah, I've always had an appreciation for him. Do you feel like having such a well-known big Hollywood name in this film as because it's quite a the cast is quite small scale. Someone like Maika Monroe, who obviously has been in has been in popular horror films, but not necessarily big studio horror films. A bit of like an indie um film darling, you could say, rather than because people have been saying she's like a huge screen queen now, but it's like, yeah, but she's been in It Follows, The Guest, is it Watcher? Not Watcher. Watcher was something. Yeah, there's one called Watcher as well that I watched recently a while ago. She is obviously great, but like having someone like Michael Monroe, do you feel like having Nicolas Cage in the role opposite her takes too much away from the film? Should it have just been somebody perhaps that we didn't really know, or someone like a character actor that we could perhaps not put a face to a name?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting thing. When you've got such a personality and a recognizable face as Nicolas Cage, it's very difficult, even with the amount of makeup that he's in, for him to entirely disappear into that role, right? You still see
Mm,
as a film goer, you see that that is, incredibly famous actor Nicolas Cage. I don't know that a role exists that he could entirely disappear within,
yeah,
and be unrecognizable. For me, it didn't take me out of it because I think he's played like a really diverse lot of characters. I wasn't watching him play himself, I was watching a character. So I was on
yeah,
board with that, but I guess it's a calculated, if we talk into the business of filmmaking, I think it probably will help it do well that
yeah,
Nicolas Cage is in it and we don't really see him. I think the intrigue will draw a lot of people to see the film straight away, and that's probably to the film's
yeah.
benefit. And I think it's probably a smart commercial decision versus it just being scary man in this. What does he look like? Do you know? Like,
Scary
and
man in this, yeah.
yeah,
How
I
do you
think it's
feel?
interesting.
How do you feel about sort of like mystery thrillers that kind of do show you this killer from the start? It's not like a surprise when we're trying to work out who it could be,
Yeah,
and
it's
we're
not
trying to
it's like an episode of Columbo, isn't it? It's not a who done it, it's a how catch 'em. Um,
yeah, it's like a how catch 'em. I mean, one interesting thing, Osgood Perkins, I did listen to him chatting about this character a lot, and he was like, we wanted to write a character who was completely unique, who Nicolas Cage couldn't draw from anywhere else for this performance. But after watching it, I'm like, there's a lot of stuff going on in this film, and most like the most obvious one is Buffalo Bill. Not just because this is a police procedural with an a female FBI agent, um, hunting down a killer who might have some, I don't know, interesting hobbies and ways of committing these murders. But there was a lot of him. I got that kind of vibe. Maybe even something like, in a way, less sinister, like a less sinister Buffalo Bill, if that's possible. Of course, it's possible, but you know what I mean. Like,
yeah.
I don't know.
That's
Did you feel like that at
yeah,
all?
I think thematically it is and I don't say this to be reductive, like I think there are obviously influences on this character beyond what I will have seen in a single watching of this film. But
Yeah,
there's elements of Buffalo Bill to it. There's elements of we were joking about before we started. There are elements of during the Satanic Panic era of like hair metal rock stars being in there as well.
yeah.
What's this flavor from Twisted Sister who got a mention
D.
last
Snyder,
week?
he
Yeah,
did two
yeah.
episodes in a row.
Lots of influence from I think characters like that as well. There's T-Rex quotes that come up
Yeah, there's
frequently
A
throughout
lot of
the
Mark
film.
Bolan going on, and there's a
That
Mark
has
Bolan
some yeah.
poster that he's got. So it's almost like this guy, he's got long hair, he listens to bloody heavy metal and rock music. He's a wrong'un. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that sort of stuff, which is like, I don't know. I almost feel like I wanted to know more. about this
Yeah.
character.
We talk about
Um,
the sorry, Ben, we also, given the era that it came out, and there's a great deal of Marilyn Manson about it as well.
there is.
Yeah,
There definitely is.
there's you can see where the inspiration is
Pete
drawn
Burns?
from it. Yeah, it makes for a good, like, just like a vampire, like, who wears
Yeah.
like a French Renaissance vampire wearing lovely
French
chalky makeup.
using the correct version of the correct usage of the word Renaissance there. Um, yes. Chalky makeup. Pete Burns is what I said. Pete Burns in it during his stint in Big Brother, where he was like the bitchiest person ever, and I was totally there for it. I was 100% involved the whole time. Um, yeah, definitely, definitely a touch of the Pete Burns going on about him as well. An interesting character, and a character that I think is gonna be talked about for a long time.
Yeah.
For ages, I didn't really all the marketing and that for this. I kind of thought serial killer movie. I only think the word horror started coming into like, as the marketing really started to get going, really started to snowball. The word horror was thrown at it a lot more. It's almost like they knew what kind of audience to go for originally. After a while,
Yeah,
and it's distributed by Neon as well, which I think obviously yeah they've put out some horror movies, but something like Immaculate that they put out this year, I think they realized that we've got to say the word horror in order to get a certain
the right
audience,
crowd in.
the right crowd in, yeah. And we've got to say, this is the most terrifying horror movie
Yeah. And
since
we'll
records began.
touch on this actually, Ben. I mean, why you wouldn't have paused immediately if you were going to be worried about spoilers for this film. So, thematic spoilers, I guess. One final warning before I say anything. I think this is where some of the difficulty was as a yes, there is a procedural element to it, but there's a certain by the time everything's resolved, there is a certain lack of ambiguity that must be done. It's not like some of those things for the narrative of this film to work, the devil is a real bloke that's about, right?
Yeah,
The
yeah,
devil and all his magic are things that
things that
definitely
are real.
exist for
Yeah,
this film to work, because otherwise certain things
mm,
just cannot happen.
yeah, exactly. So it was a supernatural
Yeah,
themed as
but
well.
there has to be like a supernatural element that works to it. And then the final piece thematically was, and I couldn't articulate this. This is fully owed to my friend Connor, who I went to see this with. For him, comparing it to like a Zodiac, which I think is really heavily leaned into with the cryptology and so on that's on there.
Yeah,
Whereas with so many of those films, part of the solving of the mystery is intrinsic to the story, and it's something we get as we go along. In this one, our main character is just slightly guided by supernatural forces and slightly just dead good at puzzles. And I
mm,
think she even describes this. Lee
a little
Harker
bit
just
of
she just looks at the puzzle long enough and she's able to do it. So there wasn't really that for lots of the clues. There wasn't like a puzzle solving element that we were
yeah.
part of. This is where they've got the cipher from. And now if I was sitting in front of this with this clue,
Mm.
I could work it out. It's just the character like, oh, I did that. I know how to do it.
I feel like again, I'm not gonna. This will be the last thing I say on it before we put it aside till we talk about it. I feel like it was missing a really big moment that drew everything in, or maybe completely changed the direction. Was a complete misdirect. For example, a head in the box moment in Seven, a um one of the best moments of editing I would say in all of cinema, which is in Silence of the Lambs, when you think the FBI are about to bust into Buffalo Bill's crib and they ring the bell and it's edited perfectly and he goes upstairs to answer the door and Clarice is at the door. The FBI
Yeah,
are somewhere else. That is the most perfect moment of editing and sort of like misdirection in cinema ever, I would say. It was lacking something that was a little bit like that, that maybe made us go, shit, we're not in Kansas anymore. This is, I've completely underestimated A, this film, or B, that character.
yeah,
And that character has done something that is despicable. It was
yeah.
almost like it kind of unraveled and the mystery was solved with relative ease, despite the ramifications of what happens.
Yeah, that's fair. And I think we've started with some critiques we've had. I think that is probably linked to what the reaction has been, marketing versus people's realities when they've walked
Yeah.
into the movie. But I will say before we go any further, I think it's a phenomenally acted piece and
Oh my
lots of
God.
interesting things about
Absolutely.
this film that I'm looking forward to
Mm.
picking up again in the future and so on.
It's a great active movie, and I feel like the the cinematography is like immense. It just
Hmm.
it puts me right in that place of True Detective series one, where I'm just like, I am whatever happens, I am along for the ride.
Yeah,
Things like that, and things like Silence of the Lambs, Zodiac, Seven, again, films that you might not always call straight up horror films, but have a lot of horror elements. I feel like those type of films, I think once you get the atmosphere right and the performances are good, I feel like the story, it doesn't really matter if the story is kind of secondary to that. I think it's you're still in for a good time in any way.
you're right.
Okay.
And I think you're right in terms of construction and in terms of pure atmosphere, which is a combination of the lighting, the sound design, sometimes the absence of any score, but just almost like an infrasound bass that comes under it.
Yeah.
And even with the bits where the aspect ratio becomes not
Mm.
quite um what was the fated app called that's done in portrait mode?
Vine?
No, I'll remind you.
Portrait mode app.
The one that was the portrait mode like entertainment or Quibi. Yeah, not in Quibi style. Not that, it's not quite that, but
What?
it becomes really almost square aspect ratio.
Yeah, yeah,
It
yeah.
so
I think
well crafted, just like a feeling of such discomfort watching this film throughout that
mm,
it yeah, I think very effective for a setting, like just a cinema full of people just feeling grossly uncomfortable.
yeah. And that was just because you were in the back row.
That's right.
That
So
was
if
me,
any of you
isn't it?
make a sound,
That was unnecessary. Sorry, Andy. Don't know where that came from.
got my
Okay,
sunglasses
just
on back there, my chalky makeup.
I've got a tiny little bit of horror news to cover. Just and we're not going to go massively in detail on this because I'm sure we'll talk about this further as we get closer to the event. But Fright Fest, the 2024 lineup is and has been confirmed from August 22nd to August the 26th. Biggest horror, the UK's biggest horror and fantasy film festival hits the Odeon in Leicester Square. That's right, it's moved. We're now in the Odeon, and you never guess what? Right horror dudes Andy Well Lit Turner and Ben Errington will be attending again. Our second mainline Fright Fest in a row. And if you count Glasgow, then that's three in a
That's
row.
three.
That's three in a row. We're attending. We're going to be there for the whole thing, doing the same thing as we did last year, milling about, hopefully interviewing people, meeting a lot of cool people, watching a lot of cool films, and enjoying our extra leg room. I think maybe we've got that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. If we got
Once
no
again,
leg room, Andy.
tickets became like another real life horror show. Like we're trying to get tickets to any event. That's a stressful situation. That's like Longlegs is in your house. You got to be careful because they go quickly. But
Hell
you took
yeah.
it on, Ben, and you succeeded. We've come away with our tickets once again.
We got there. We got there. I'm gonna hit you with a couple of films that are gonna be shown in the main screen and in the Discovery screens. Broken Bird, The Substance, Invader, Bookworm, Strange Darling, The Dead Thing, Dead Male, Test Screening, Survive, Traumatica, Hauntology, Ladybug, Shelby Oaks, which is the directorial debut of Mr. Chris Stuckman, if you're familiar with his work on YouTube. I Will Never Leave You Alone, Dark Match, Carnage for Christmas, The Bunker. I mean, I could go on. Generation Terror, a documentary made by the makers of the J horror documentary as well. Children of the Wicker Man. There's loads going on. Mermaid Legend. There's going to be a screening of A Nightmare on Elm Street. There's going to be a screening of Jake West's Razor Blade Smile. Last Voyage of the Demeter on the big screen. Did you miss it when it came out? What? Yeah, last year? You can watch it at Fright Fest. It's all happening Thursday to Sunday. Can you believe it? Even though passes are sold out, individual screening tickets will be
Will be
available.
available, right? Because that's our
Mainly,
next round of the ticketing.
yeah.
So obviously we'll for those of you who haven't done many film festivals, you just maybe watch it at the regular cinemas or at home. Um, Fright Fest doesn't work like all of the others. There is a main screening where if you've got that pass, you have tickets to all of those, but there are also going to be those discovery screens as well, which as pass holders we're able to go to, or people will be able to buy individual tickets for as well. And we will have another round of ticketing where Ben and I will once again have to get our spreadsheet out, like who is going for
Oh
which
yeah.
films to
Did we? Did we?
optimize our coverage of
Yeah.
the event, where
We
we'll once
we
again
did.
see what other films we can dive into. And obviously, it's going to be a busy August. We will do our best to cover everything that we possibly can,
Hmm.
between films we see together, films we see separately, covering across those different screenings, any opportunities we get to watch screeners, to watch things in advance so we can try and hit a percentage of festival watched. Also, it's not just me and you out there, Ben. Obviously, we'll have other friends who are likely to be there as well. Who we heard from previous guests, I believe is Emma going to be there?
Emma Cownley. Emma Cownley. She'll be attending. She's already hit us up on the old Twitter and said we. Well, I think we made some promises that we're going to do some karaoke. So
Will be there. Look out for
we'll
that as
be
well.
there. We'll be
Um,
there.
Mr. John
I,
Crennan, friend of the show, he's a regular attendee. We haven't heard if he's got his tickets yet, but I'd imagine if there's as God's my
yeah.
witness, Ben, I reckon if it's possible, he'll be there.
Yeah, and again, I'm not assuming on these things, but I'm pretty sure Ash Millman said she'd be attending. Um, Aaron Truss, he's usually there, isn't he? He's usually milling about. I
I
say
mean,
that
Jake
like
West's
I've
got
gone
a
every
film
year.
screening. I'm sure he
Jake
better
West
turn
has
up, I
got a film
guess.
screen. He better turn up. Yeah, we're gonna try and meet as many people. Obviously, we got to meet a lot of people that we'd spoken to online before and on episodes. Let's try and hit even more of those people, meet them, meet and get some live coverage of films. I say live, of course. The podcast will be will be out the week after, but still,
We'll be
we'll
there.
be there in
We'll
person.
take our tiny little microphones with us along again. We're going to try and get some interviews. If you are
We've got a
listening to
big
this and you're going
microphone
to be
stick now,
attending,
Andy.
of
Sorry.
course, big and small microphones. Um, if you're going to be attending and you have listened, if you start listening in the build up, um, I want to be able to see people that have heard the show that want to come and chat to us while we're there, to come and share some of your reviews with us. If you see us around in and around Fright Fest, I promise, don't let my angry little face fool you. I'm actually dead approachable and super nice. So come and say hello.
Lovely.
Um,
I wouldn't say you've got an angry face, Andy.
Look at these eyebrows, Ben. Close knit. Look at that.
I don't know about
Um, One thing I am going to be seeing there, Ben, quite often when we go to these festivals, right? Obviously, you got to prioritize a new watch, right? You've got
that.
some favorites there, but if it comes down to a choice, gunty head, gunty balls, you got to choose and you got to go and see a new one normally. But there is one time on this one where I'm going to staunchly refuse. Someone might say to me, Andy, see something you've not seen before, or Andy, you're tired, mate. It's going to be a busy weekend. Pace yourself. Go to bed at 10:25 on Thursday, the 22nd of August. Someone said that to me. I'd say shan't, Ben, because I'm off for a second viewing of The Invisible Raptor, an
Oh
encore
God, no.
performance.
I wonder what you're gonna say. I thought you were gonna say a Nightmare on Elm Street. I thought because we know you like a bit of Freddy, but no, The Invisible Raptor encore performance. I can't think of anything I want to do more.
I know,
You know?
because what a time that first screening it was. A great movie to finish off an evening. Mike and the whole team were obviously super nice. It's a film I've been recommending to friends, to family, to our peers in the horror podcasting space, saying, "Hey,
You
listen."
recommended it to Kim a couple of weeks ago, didn't you?
I believe I
Y-
did. I did recommend it to Kim a couple of weeks ago. He's the Invisible Raptor. I've emailed literal other podcasts saying, "Listen, lads, when you get a chance to see this,
They're like,
um, get and get and see this." I've proved my credibility with those by giving them some good recommendations in the past. So I cannot wait to see Invisible Raptor again. Spoilers for the end of the year. You're gonna see it in my top 10 for sure. The only thing that remains to determine is how high it makes it this year.
yeah. Oh man, how exciting.
plenty
Looking
of other
forward
things
to
to
it.
enjoy as well. I am looking forward to it. I think the only lesson I am going to take away is going to pack myself some. I might literally bring some foods to pack, Ben, because even I've got a limit of how much cinema food I can eat. I'm going to need to have real food with me.
Have you brought your butties, your little
I'm
butties
going
in
to get some
the
butties. Might have to bring
tin
some.
foil?
Might have to bring some salad with me. I'm not sure I can make 4 days.
Yeah.
That's not even
I'm
four
sure you
days.
can find
Thursday
some
to
salad
Monday.
somewhere. Kebab shops, they got salad. Uh,
Little bit
uh,
of lettuce.
little bit of lettuce, exactly. One from good news to some quite sad news now is that the shining star Shelley Duvall has passed away, age 75. It was quite a shock because I think it was her birthday. Like, I don't know if it was the day of the news broke that she died, or like a day before. Because I remember a lot of people sharing things like "Happy Birthday" to Shelley Duvall. Of course, horror fans will know her as
Olive oil
sort
and
of
Popeye.
as Olive. I was gonna say that Olive Oil in Popeye, Annie Hall. She's in Time Bandits, right?
She is in Time
Yeah, she's in
Bandits.
Time Bandits. Um, and of course, like obviously her most famous role is as Wendy Torrance in. That's right, isn't it?
Yeah.
I keep saying words and they don't sound right that come out of my mouth. I don't want to be that guy. Wendy Torrance in The Shining. Of course, famously had a bit of a bad time filming that film with Stanley Kubrick being a right pushy knobhead. Well, I think since she's maybe come out and said, you know what, whatever.
He
I
got a
don't know.
great performance. He got a great performance out of
You
me.
got a great performance out of me. Yeah, exactly. Her final performance will be featured in the upcoming horror film, The Forest Hills. It's a werewolf film. And it was
Aye.
not only is her final film, but it's her first on-screen appearance in more than 20 years. So rest in peace, Shelley Duvall. And thanks for
Yeah.
everything you've done for horror movies and facial expressions when anyone's brandishing an axe or when you're brandishing a baseball bat, you know? Give it a bat. Give it a bat, Marge. Give it a bat. Give it a bat.
Yeah.
Sorry. Give it a
Um,
bat.
yeah, a sad loss to us all. 70 years is a not a short life, but it's never long enough. So
Yes,
yeah,
indeed.
but lots of great movies to remember her by, and I'm sure
Yeah,
she'll be a fondly remembered name from cinema for still many, many years to come. I mean, The
absolutely.
Shining still tops plenty of,
Yeah.
horror lists of all times today.
I'm gonna do the next two bits of news together. Um, two new films coming out, additions to already established franchise, both coming to Shudder. Hell House LLC Lineage. There's a teaser trailer out. It's the fifth installment of the Hell House LLC franchise. That's coming to Shudder in October 2025, and another VHS movie anthology. VHS Beyond is also coming to Shudder this Halloween, well, October the 4th. So if you're going to watch either of those, they've also directors and segment titles for this. Justin Long, Mike Flanagan, Kate Siegel. So she's obviously her and Mike Flanagan are
Competing
separating
now,
their directed. What was that?
competing against each other, which is
Competing
going to be
against
the
each
best
other,
one.
exactly.
Do you reckon
Ty.
Mike Flanagan is going to say, um, Kate, I put you in loads of my films. Am I going to be in this one? Is Mike
Yeah.
Flanagan going to be acting in her
Oh,
section?
so it looks like Mike has written the one that Kate is directing. It's called Stowaway. The one written and directed by Justin Long, Christian Long, Fur Babies, Stork, Live and Let Dive,
Very
Dream
good.
Girl. Some great titles. Yeah, we'll look forward to that. It looks like more and more bigger names are getting attached to VHS movies, which is good. Getting more eyes on them as well, because I think they're always a good time. They're always a fun time, the horror anthology, aren't they? There we go. So for news, Andy,
So for
anything you've
news,
seen this week that you want to mention?
um, very brief, Ben. Been busy with work, but I started before we were away, but I'm now finished. I got the first collected volume of the Creep Show's return in comic form.
Oh
So
yeah,
I
I
got a
did see you were reading that. Yeah.
yeah, it's only like I mean it's still a trade paperback, so it's not just
Oh
the one
yeah.
comic. I think it collects the first five or six
Mm.
of the new run of Creep Show stories. some really cool and interesting stories. Really leans into the creep show anthology format, as you already conjured anthologies. So I
Yeah.
read that. I enjoyed it a great
Hell yeah.
deal. There are some really, really fun stories in there. I think one that I particularly loved, I will have to very quickly get the artist and the author behind it, but there was an excellent one about a children's birthday entertainment, like a big monster that turns up at the last moment to entertain at a children's party. Except you never guess what, Ben? Actual monster in it.
Ah,
Um,
bloody hell.
a great bit of fun, but really that creep show vibe, that a nice contained scare, sometimes a bit of a moral lesson. If a bloody
Mm.
sign says only take one sweetie at a Halloween bowl of sweets, just take the one. Why don't you? You're gonna get in a spot of bother if you don't do that. Like,
Yeah.
really, really good. And that has served as an inspiration. I've not seen enough to make many comments on it yet, but I have started watching the Shudder Creep Show series. Now there are four
Oh,
seasons of
nice.
it on the platform. I started the first one and it starts out incredibly strong with this one, continuing that creep show the creep show tradition of some great short stories from really famous horror writers. Again, really performed by some brilliant leading and character actors of the time. The first episode that I've watched already begins with a story based on Grey Matter by Stephen King himself. What a start
Oh,
to a
nice.
season. Um, and stars, among others, both Tobin Bell, old Jigsaw himself, and man of the moment, man of many a film, man of one of last week's film, Giancarlo Esposito is in there as well.
Oh,
Really, really strong
interesting.
start. So I'm looking forward to working my way through that
Mm.
series in the coming weeks. And then I guess finally, I've also because I love a bit of an easy watch. Something I can watch on the side, not horror related, but a horror related episode of a series I've been watching. I've been watching on Netflix. My easy watch recently has been revisiting police procedural, a bit like this, but a bit more silly. Psych. Good old Sean Spencer pretending to be a psychic and helping the police with investigations. They did an excellent episode on their third to wrap up their third season. Um, that was a take of Friday the 13th, which I
All
enjoyed very
right.
much and has me geared up for next week's film. And then in addition,
Yeah.
very last, just before I went to see Longlegs, one with a serial killer that leaves loads of clues for the police to investigate. Very fitting to watch that and then head out to see Longlegs as well. But I love that series. It's a lot of fun.
Hell yes. Sounds lovely, man. Is
How
that
about
it?
you? That's it this week.
Okay, me. I wanted to watch some police procedurals with a serial killer who left clues, or maybe got in touch and went, "Oh, yeah, you're looking for me, are you? Well, you never guess what." So I had an Alex Cross Morgan Freeman double bill, and I watched Kiss the Girls and Along Came a Spider. I remember seeing these films when I was like pretty young, like probably around about the same time as I saw Silence of the Lambs for the first time. And I don't know, in my head, I kind of built them up more than they. I remember them being like kind of scary, I guess. But watching them back, not so much. Some of the mystery elements and the like convenient ways that evidence is revealed are probably like the scariest things of it. There's so much. There's like legit. We make fun of it in 2024 and earlier than that. Enhance, when you're looking at an image and you go
Zoom and
enhance and
enhance.
everything, this happens to a ridiculous degree. There is in one of the films, somebody's got a folder on their computer which is basically evidence folder,
Orgy
commit
of evidence that I'm a
orgy of
murderer.
evidence that I'm a murderer folder, like rented this house, took photos of these people, bought these weapons. You know what I mean? Like real bad sort
Kept
of
his
stuff.
receipts.
In Along Came a Spider, somebody like kidnaps a girl, like a daughter of a congressman or something, and he's been wearing like prosthetic makeup for 2 years. I'm like, are you telling me that not one person, kid or otherwise, would have looked at him and gone, is your nose kind of like hanging off a little bit? Like that is the long game. Like surely you do that for like, I don't know, a couple of weeks and then maybe try and commit some sort of kidnappery. That's not
I
a
don't
word.
know, Ben. Like these characters that you get. I mean, we cover it when we cover the film of the week, but I feel if anyone was arping about town looking like Nicolas Cage's character in this one, the police would be knocking on his door more than Greengrass in Heartbeat, mate. The
Yeah,
second anything
green
went bloody
grass.
wrong, you'd be like,
Not bloody green grass.
"It's him, innit? It's that weird looking
Yeah.
bloke. It's the Candleman."
Also, I don't want to spoil Along Came a Spider or Kiss the Girls, but they're 20 years old, these films. I hate how they always like just try and bend the plot as conveniently as possible to go, the killer, yeah, it's him who's that famous good guy from this old film. Him who you thought was a good guy the whole time. Who you thought was a good guy the whole time. It's them. What? Why can't it just be a killer? Why does it have to be that? That's ridiculous. Um, and then also watch The Bone Collector with Denzel Washington and Angelina Jolie. I find this a lot more watchable than those other two films. I think they've got great chemistry. Denzel Washington's character's like a paraplegic, and he's basically like living vicariously through Angelina Jolie, going, "Right, are you in the crime scene? Yeah, right, now go and do this." At one point, he's like, "There's a dead body there. Cut its hands off. Go on." And she's like going, I can't. He's going, "Fucking do
It's
it.
really easy
Cut
just to
your hands
say
off."
these things, Denzel. Like, just do that.
Exactly. I feel like the only problem with The Bone Collector is that by the time the final reveal happens, the film just pretty much ends. And I'm like, really? Is that it? Am I really supposed to believe this person's motives? Also, somebody loses a fight to Denzel Washington, and Denzel Washington's a paraplegic in this. Quadriplegic, not paraplegic, quadriplegic. And someone loses a fight to him.
Has he? I've not
How?
seen the Bone Collector. How does he get him?
You may think, again, I don't want to spoil this film, but you may think, how on earth is a quadriplegic going to win a fight against someone? Well, he's got a special blow tube which makes his bed, his hospital bed, collapse and it traps someone's hand in it. Then the guy pulls him over onto him to try and, like, I don't know, beat him up or kill him. Denzel Washington bites him on the neck.
Got him, I guess. To be fair,
Right.
like as soon as he said he had a special blowjob, I think he was gonna let, and he shot him with a little dart, and it just got him.
Shot him with a little dart in the neck. That was fun. I think late night is sort of these films were very popular, of course. But yeah, in my head, I think because again, in a similar way to Con Air and Face Off, I felt like a legit adult watching these films because there were like murders in them. I think I built them up in my head as like, oh, they're like horror films, aren't they? When they're not. So going back to them was a bit like, oh yeah, I remember this.
Where do you feel
Strange
these?
though.
Where do you feel these went away? Because it feels like we had a period without them
Yeah,
after this era. Is it because programs like CSI became so popular and
yeah, possibly.
effectively even a normal episode is only just shy of a feature length
Yeah, I think
forensic
that's
police
it.
procedural mystery?
And maybe it's like all of these types of stories have been maybe it's because like books, there are a lot of books which are like this, obviously, like Thomas Harris writing all the like Hannibal novels were sort of like 80s into the 90s. I don't know, Hannibal Rising came out, that was the last one, I think. And
I
yeah,
think
and
it just
obviously,
evolved, isn't it? Because like
yeah,
we had those where the key was like forensic science is the key, and then actually, if you think about just 5, 6 years ago, you were in the eras of Gone Girl and Girl on the Train, where the theme, I guess, was that horrible misogynist husband. Probably it's him.
yeah. Well, I guess like the dragon tattoo,
Yeah,
what's his name? Those films kind of fall into
Stieg
this.
Larsson.
Stieg Larsson, that's it. These films fall into that sort of
That's
realm of
computers forensics, isn't it? There's
computers
computers.
friend.
They have the answer.
Enhance actually works.
Except they
Um,
enhance your accounts rather than he's
yeah.
been spending money at this shop. Got him.
The only other thing I watched, Andy, was I had to get this watched because I felt my life was incomplete until I'd seen Russell Crowe in another film with the word exorcism in it
Oh,
or
I
exorcist.
tell me.
So I went and watched the Exorcism, which was unnecessary for them to call it this. They could have called it literally anything else. This, I had a real tough time with this. It was definitely a snooze fest. I
Because he's
didn't
fun
care
in the
about
Pope's Exorcist, isn't he? He's
yes.
driving around on his Vespa with his little coffees and being rude to the cardinals.
I suppose it's like the setup is kind of interesting. A guy is playing a priest on what is definitely a remake of The Exorcist, because I think someone even says, I can't believe they're remaking this film. And it's called the Georgetown Project, is like the working title for the film. Um, I just didn't care about anyone. I didn't get why what was happening was happening. There was just a lot of what was supposed to be Russell Crowe doing bad acting and then getting all upset and I can't bloody do it. I can't act anymore. And then like his eyes and skin going a bit like purple. And that was
That'll
kind of
happen.
it.
That
Like
happens when you get
Thanos.
possessed, doesn't it? Though, yeah.
And another film that I tell you what, the only thing that was kind of interesting was that the set was like a huge, it was like a three-story house, but that like been dissected, was like in half. That was
Like a
the
Dolly's
set because obviously
house.
it's like a Dolly's house. That was cool. I kind of like that. But there was definitely times when stuff was happening on the top floor, and you'd be down on the bottom floor with the people who were supposedly making the film, and they'd be like that, going, "I can't believe that's happening." I'd be like, you can't fucking hear it up there." You'd be like, "Sorry, come again? I don't know what's going on up there." Um, a snooze like 90 minutes, but by the time half an hour had gone by, I was like, oh, wrap it up then. It was one of those. You can really obviously it was made like 2019, put on the back burner. You can tell that there are some reshoots in places as well. Feels a bit disjointed. They try to make it represent the passage of time, but I was a bit like, I don't know. I feel like a few years ago, if it came out, I probably would have felt the same, but I feel like it missed the train a little bit. It should have just come out when it was made. I know there are a lot of problems that would have happened because of that, but yeah, that was it, Andy.
The CC times, isn't it, there, Ben? Because COVID. Gonna wait.
Because COVID times, exactly. Um, but luckily, it wasn't all bad times. Although I say that this is a pretty bad time for everybody involved in this film. Um, by characters, I mean, not people who made it and stuff.
Yeah.
There's
Trying to
not
think of
much.
anyone in this film you would argue has a good time overall.
Longlegs, he's having a laugh, isn't he?
Only for a
Okay.
bit. And he hasn't even got a very nice. He sits on the floor in his own house.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so film of the week, Andy, is Longlegs. It's a 2024 American horror thriller film written and directed by Osgood Perkins. Do you know who Osgood Perkins is, Andy?
He is the writer director behind upcoming film The Monkey, which I'm looking forward to.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is indeed. He is also the son of Anthony Perkins of Psycho fame. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Can you believe it? And photographer actress Barry Berenson, who so interesting story, right? I'm going to set this up for Osgood Perkins. If you're trying to think about what kind of guy this guy is, his
Yeah.
dad was in Psycho, and then obviously Psycho 2 and Psycho 3. Um, he died in 1992. I think it may have been HIV. I'm not 100% sure. I think I read that recently. Photographer actress Barry Berenson died in the 2001 September 11th attacks
Oh,
on the
wow.
World Trade Centers. She was a passenger on one of the flights. Crazy. Um, his brother is. I was going to say his brother, like I knew who that was. I read the name Elvis Perkins then, and I was like, hang on a minute. And also, if you recognize Osgood Perkins, because I do, I go, recognize that guy? Who is that guy? He is in the film Legally Blonde as a character called David Kidney, who is I don't know how to describe this character as a bit of an oddball, I guess you would say, like the oddball character. Who's that guy? David Kidney, the oddball character. So it's crazy that all of these things have kind of come together for him to become a writer director of sort of like mainstream horror. He directed another film which is called the Blackcoat's Daughter, which I've not seen. He also directed that Gretel and Hansel film from
Gretel and
2020.
Hansel, that's the one. I've not seen it.
Yeah, and I like that. I thought that was good. But now, and yeah, and he is directing the upcoming supernatural horror film, The Monkey. So that's exciting, isn't it? But sorry, I didn't mean to give you the life and times of Mr. Osgood
Yeah, but
Perkins.
it is
But
interesting to look at, especially with this film, with such a, I think a deep-seated horror about it. Um, like obviously someone who's experienced quite a lot of tragedy in their life, and whether he
yeah,
brings that to his stories or not, I'd have to hear him
that's why
speak
I
on the
thought it was,
matter.
that's why I thought it was interesting to kind of set the scene. So this film stars Maika Monroe, Nicolas Cage, Blair Underwood, Alicia Witt. The film follows an FBI agent tasked with tracking down an occultist serial killer whom she realizes she has a personal connection to. Bit of a spoiler going on there. Longlegs. How long are his legs? Anyway, don't think they're really that long. But
Just
he
a
does
fair
say
normal
some
length, but he talks to kids an awful lot, so to them,
incredibly
very
long
long.
legs. Very, very long legs. Yeah, and I mean in terms of style, like, yeah, it is an FBI procedural in a way, but it's got a lot of demonic symbolism going on, a lot of kind of cultist symbolism as well. It's kind of like a procedural following the tracking down of a serial killer if it were half an episode of Twin Peaks, and I've heard a lot of people say Alan Wake. We've got a lot of these similarities with something like Alan Wake as well, potentially. And I can kind of get that. I think it's almost like it's got a very dreamlike quality to it. It's
Yeah,
almost, yeah, there's something incredibly unnerving about it. I'm glad that we didn't get like loads and loads of dream sequences with all these kind of visuals of different things. It steers away from that, which is good. It's almost like the actual waking scenes have all got like this weird dreamlike quality to them. There is a supernatural element, but it's not like ever present. It's not like I don't know, things floating. There's not like monsters and things coming at you. There's not like floating specters.
you'll just
It,
sometimes see a bit of the devil in the background going shh, and then vanish.
be quiet, you bloody bug. Which I kind of like. I feel like it is very measured in the way it drip feeds this kind of supernaturalness to it. A lot of stuff is open to interpretation. I think I've seen a lot of theories online already. Of course, you can pick it apart till the cows come home, but I feel like a lot of it being open to interpretation is interesting as well. I think the marketing is something to discuss as well because I think as far as I'm aware, a lot of the marketing has hinted towards thematic elements or story beats or characters without really giving too much away, which I feel like films can do. And as we also mentioned as well, this film has been very careful not to show us Nicolas Cage fully made up as the villain of the piece.
There we go.
So,
You got any choice reviews before we dive into it?
oh my God, why do I tell you what, there are a few times, Andy, I forget that bit. I do it more than once. I did it at the end of the show recently. Do you remember that?
Yeah, that's okay though.
Absolute carnage.
So
So,
work as a team.
Longlegs, IMDb 7.4 out of 10. Rotten Tomatoes, 86% audience score, 63% critic score. Letterboxd, 3.6 out of 5. Choice reviews. George Carmy says, stomach turning, skin crawling, psychological serial killer, indie horror. Shove this up my ass. With an extreme end to that to that review, but I understand his sentiment. Shook One says, all atmosphere, all cage creepiness, no surprises. This was the review that kind of was kind of how I felt. We're not in the 90s anymore, and we don't get any fancy story beats like Seven or Memento here. That train left the station a while ago. All that's present is the surface of well-played genre mechanisms. And I feel like that's what it that's kind of how I feel. Sophie, a moth just flew into my face. 3 stars. Sophie Holsinger says, has its moments, but never felt truly original or wholly fleshed out enough for me. My favorite part was the opening scene, which I think a lot of people have enjoyed.
Yeah.
And then Clara Curtis has given it 5 stars. And the reason I decided to write this review down is because it's made me go, I don't think this person's quoting the film, but if she isn't, get her in for to write the script for Longlegs too, because this is lovely. My angel girl worships at the altar of ciphers and crime photos, sleeps at the foot of his diligent work. She studies the scenes like a holy text, fingers tracing every splatter and gash. Her hymns are dead fingers pleading for mercy. She plucks carnage from the tree and takes bite after greedy bite, tucking it deep inside. My angel girl is full of rotting, nasty things. What an immaculate sight she is. Really wonderful, isn't it?
There she is. Maybe she's bloody long legs though. That's very
I'm thinking, hang on a minute. Don't go putting that stuff on Letterbox because I'm gonna swipe that and
yeah.
like change a couple of the words and take it for
Bloody
myself.
go find her, get your tape measure against her legs and have a close look at her just in case.
Yeah, Clara Curtis, we need to find out how long your legs really are. Okay, so in terms of this is set in the 90s, but we get a lot of stuff in 1970s Oregon. Oregon. I was going to say I was going to say Aragorn.
Oregon.
Oregon.
Like a new
Oh God.
transformer.
Oh my God, it's Oregon. Oh no, Dalek. It's all
No.
unraveling, it's all going wrong.
Or some people say it. Oregon, the place.
Oregon, Oregon, Oregon. Stop saying it. So it's all snowy outside. We start with some very nice scenes in sort of the square dimension. How would you say it? The aspect
The
ratio
aspect ratio, super square.
looks
I thought it was going to be the whole
Super
film
8.
for a while.
Yeah,
Super
I,
8.
I did too. Super 8. So there's a car, like a station wagon. Is that what that kind of car is? I think so. Maybe a little bit. Don't know. Um, Pulls up. It's a very snowy landscape. There's a little house, a little white house. Again, cinematography is on point here. Locations are great. This car pulls up. We get a slow sort of zoom into this window. Then there's loads of this kind of like the 180-degree rule in cinema, kind of like it's just completely thrown out the window of a lot of this stuff. We get a lot of characters face on, then we're directly behind them. I like it. A little girl goes outside. She hears there's no one sat in the car. Well, it looks like there's someone sat in the car, doesn't it? You can kind of see a shape sat in this car. She's obviously going to see who it is. So there's a creepy little noise from behind her, from like around the side of the house.
And then we
Little
get
voice.
a very rude little jump scare.
Very rude. I'm not into this. Although I am. It was a good jump scare. Um, Little girl in a red coat. She's looking around. She looks in various different directions, and suddenly Longlegs is there, but you only see him from the nose down. Um, Dressed in these kind of like washed out white grays, and kind of like he looks a bit grubby. Um,
Or the stringy hair. He has the look of the scienceman from Independence Day, played by Data. That's who
oh
he
my
looks just
God,
like. That's his look.
you're absolutely correct.
He's
You
dressed as
are.
him.
Like when he gets taken over by the alien
And the
and
alien's
puppet.
like using him like a dolly, going
Arr, arr,
him.
arr. Can we have peace, please, dollies? Sorry, aliens. Can we have peace? What does he say?
No peas. No
No
peas.
peace. Only carrots. What,
He says,
what does he say?
"What do you want us
Just
to
no
do?
peace.
Die, die, die." And he says that, but then he makes the president get a bad head, and he goes, "That
Oh
gas
yeah.
bulletproof." Amazingly, no, shoot him.
Yeah, amazingly, absolutely not. Shoot fuck out of him, I say. Shoot fuck out of him. Definitely got a bit of that look going on. And yeah, some thematic similarities that scene and this whole movie. This girl, we're kind of scared for her. We think, oh my God, murderer, what's he gonna do? But we don't see anything, do we? We
Yeah,
just
and,
get
it, and
a
this
sort of
and this
smash
guy
cut.
comes at her, and even I think even by the thick knit jumpers of the 1970s standards, this guy is dressed absolutely in a pedo starter kit, hasn't he? He's there, he's ready.
But here's the thing, I don't think there's any of that going on, is there? As far as I can tell.
He just seems to be interested in killing him.
Yeah, killing
Actually,
them
yeah, to
only.
be fair, I do not want to besmirch Satan or his
Yeah,
servants' good names. He
don't do that.
doesn't seem to be sexual at all. He's just a bit of a wrong'un.
Just a bit of a wrong, quite a lot of a wrong. And he says things like, "There she is, there she is, the almost birthday girl." A very like shaky bit of voice, high pitch going on. I know we get a better look at him later, but yeah, it's like a combination of Marilyn Manson, Michael Jackson, that fella from Independence Day, some late 70s, early 80s rock and glam rock frontmen of the
Yeah,
time. Um, and a face that almost looks a bit like I tell you what, a bit like what's his name from Maniac Cop as well. Sans the Tan.
Matt Cardle.
Mac. Yeah, he's got like a very prominent jawline, right? Going on. And it
For
is kind of
people who
fascinating.
follow horror movies, if this is your first episode, I know it's Matt Cordell. I haven't
You say
deliberately,
that,
I haven't accidentally got him mistaken for an X Factor winner from the early 2000s.
you say that, but I completely bypassed it and went, yeah, fair shout.
Legit.
Matt Cardle, yeah, why not? Also, a little bit like some over the top plastic surgery reminds me a bit of like when you used to watch an episode of Euro Trash or late on Channel 4 in the late 90s, and they'd have like um they'd have a
Lola
sex.
Ferrari's on again.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. Like a Lola Ferrari-esque character, and you go, obviously you're terrified as a kid. You're like, oh Jesus Christ. But you still crap one. No, 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 you don't. No,
It's
you don't.
it's very, very confusing. It's like, oh, I mean, you are
You're a lady and I can see your boobs, but they are the
thematically you are a
size.
naked woman and I'm a teenage boy,
Thematically,
but you've got a horrifying, haunting face. Um,
is a bit like that. And also, Zsa Zsa Gabor.
yeah,
Yeah, something like that. There's a
very
lot of this
House of
going on,
Wax.
and it does very House of Wax, and it's confusing. Of course, we don't get a good look at his face yet, so that is the anticipation of trying to find that out. And then we get a smash cut to the opening credits, which are great, aren't they? They're very good. A lot
Yeah,
of nice, I've had a lot of nice red and black visuals.
it's like saving your
T-Rex
game
song?
in Silent Hill 2, isn't it? All goes horrible and red.
Yeah, it is like that. Is it T-Rex, the song? I know there's a T-Rex quote
Yeah,
at the start.
it quotes T Rex itself. The two things that Longlegs loves, right, Ben? Number one, the devil goes on about him all the time in this film. Second thing, Mark Boland.
Mark Bolan. He loves Mark Bolan. He's all over him. He's got a poster of him on the wall. He's quoting him. He's like, make sure you play one of his songs during my film, please. He loves it. But again, similarities to Buffalo Bill in that way, because Buffalo Bill, what's that song called?
By
Horses.
Horses by Q Lazarus.
Yes, that's it. Yeah, I knew you'd know it because you did it in the quiz, didn't you? But you know what I mean? Like he's got that sort. He's like that's a sort of music loving, a bit effeminate, very outlandish. There's this sort of nature to him,
Lovely
which is like
staccato voice.
most of the time in real life, when I meet people like this or I know people like this in any way, even a tiny bit like this, I think what a lovely person. But unfortunately, for films like this and Silence of the Lambs, we've gone. Hang on a minute, wrong un.
Yeah.
Hang on a minute, wrong un. And of course, I'm not arguing that he's not wrong un. He is a wrong un. Um, but yeah, we go we flash forward to the 90s where we're introduced to newly recruited FBI agent Lee Harker. She's got like this kind of intuition thing going on, slash maybe slight telepathy. I don't know how I feel about this. I don't necessarily think it added much to the film. I feel like she could have easily worked out things herself and I
Yeah,
would have
there's a
been just as
strange element that she has this power that kind of brings her through the the story and the puzzle solving element in a way that is feels a bit like a shortcut in some cases. Like, oh, she can work it out just because.
yeah,
Um,
it definitely does feel like that.
and it manifests in this place, and we do get some explanation as to why it exists, and maybe it has directed what she sees and what she doesn't see as we've gone through a bit later on. But here it manifests that, and she's very quiet. Is like she doesn't really say very much, and she's quite often lost in her own thoughts. You know, her partner, who is they're basically door to door looking for a suspected killer,
Yeah,
and she immediately looks at House and says,
it's
"Bow
that
on."
one over there.
Um,
But then she also says, call it in.
yeah, she
And
does the sensible thing is call it in, and her partner's like, "No, I'm not going to call it
what am
in.
I gonna say?
Just on a hunch, I'm not going to call it in." But unfortunately, him being a naysayer doesn't do anyone any harm except himself, to be honest, because what he does is he knocks on the door and
Did you
technical
think
term, eat shit immediately, basically, doesn't he?
did you think this was supposed to be Longlegs initially? I did.
Yeah, I thought bloody Longlegs got him.
Got him already. First few minutes, bang. Go into the house. There's like plastic sheeting everywhere. You know, good idea, really, isn't it? If you're committing various murders.
You're going to be a
Also, I feel
Longlegs,
like
yeah.
if you get caught, if someone's knocked on your door and to go, "Have you seen this man?" immediately shoot them in the head. I suppose he knew the game was up. Um, Lee Harker, she's very quiet, she's very methodical, but I feel like the emotion, especially in moments of like tense moments or moments she's supposed to be scared, comes through like really strong. And I don't know if that's like, I don't know how that makes me feel about her as a character. It makes me think, yes, she's had past trauma. We understand that some levels of trauma that she's got like buried away that she's not really remembering at all. But I tell you what, every time she's got that gun out, she's hyperventilating. She's, well, I suppose you would. You just seen your partner
Yeah.
killed.
So you did
Um,
see a partner killed, but she catches the guy because he's just gonna have a sit on the bed after he's done the murder. You're going, well,
yeah, he's gone. You
that's
know
that
what?
done.
Absolutely. Um,
Doesn't get caught,
that,
not he's not like the guy from last week's film, Maxine at all. He's been running straight up the hills. He doesn't. He just sits on the bed nicely and
yeah. See you later.
waits to be captured. Um,
Absolutely.
she's then
We
subjected to. Now this is very
like
very
it's like
more surreal in a completely different sense. I
very
guess this is maybe
surrealist. Yeah.
getting like maybe the Alan Wakeness from some places, or maybe some of the
It's
Twin Peaks element. It's just her in a really like government testy room where a disembodied voice asks you questions and refuses to give context. Are you ready to begin? All right, Ben. Are you ready to begin? Don't ask what
uh
you're beginning. Just are you ready? All right.
what I'm not I don't think I'm ready. What are we
All right.
beginning?
I'm going to say a word, and you're just going to say the first word that comes into your head. Are you ready? Like, because you're ready to begin. I mean, I've asked you more times than a
Okay,
government tester would.
I'm ready.
Camera,
What's it's
apples,
dad
coffee,
grinds. Oh, that's a word association there.
beans.
Means Heinz.
Excellent work. And based on those results, you are
You
clairvoyant. I mean, that's based. And then
based on those results, please revoke your badge. Please turn in your badge and gun.
and it isn't words; it does pictures, and then quickly goes for like a Peter Venkman. Like, what number am I thinking between 1 and 100?
Yeah. And didn't you what she say?
Just
33 and a
just some
third.
numbers, and then we smash cut to basically in the back of a car getting some people talking about her results. So her a senior agent or two senior agents are there saying, "Bloomin' hell." So basically, you got it right 8 times. And she goes, well, I got it wrong 8 times as well. And they said,
Mm,
well, 50% psychic's actually wicked. So brilliant.
50% psychic is absolutely well good. Well done. Yeah, it's kind of like very Alan Wakey, a bit like the game Control as well. There's a lot of these kind of like neutered government buildings and big like brightly lit projections on the wall. It was a bit like Blade Runner 2049 as well. You know that test they're doing with old Ryan Gosling to try and,
So
I
you bloody
guess.
robot. No, stop asking.
Well, I think they know he's a robot at this point. Are they just trying to get him to how how messed up of a robot are you really? Talk about these things. It's very much like that, and it's weird because it's almost this strange, otherworldly parallel universe where the FBI just accept some people are clairvoyant, some people aren't, and because you are, you're on this case. Yeah, is that right?
Yeah, you get stuck in actually because we need a clairvoyant for
We need a clairvoyant.
this one
It's
because there's a
it's an
series of
interesting,
murder suicides.
yeah, it's an interesting concept. I like it as a concept. I just don't know whether it's executed as well as I would have liked it to be as a concept. It's almost like sometimes it makes sense, sometimes it makes sense for the plot, other times not so much. So yeah, a series of murder suicides that have been taking place since the 60s, essentially where a family have all died. The dad has committed the murders, but then the dad has committed suicide. The only thing kind of linking them currently is there's been a mysterious cipher left at each one of these families' houses after the murder. And secondly, um, the daughter, is it always the daughter? Yeah, the
They
daughter.
always have a daughter whose birthday is on the 14th of a given month.
I feel like I mean, it must have taken them a while to get to that conclusion as this is linking it together. Do you know what I mean? I feel like you'd look in a lot of different places before you went, and I know, but when's their birthdays then? Hey? Um,
Guess they've been looking at it for a while. It's been since the 60s, 30 years that I tried it all.
that's true. It's weird that they're approaching it now, though, isn't it? Because I think it's kind of gone cold. I think even so, her superior, who is played by Blair Underwood, he kind of says the case has gone cold, and then but then when she starts unpicking things, he says, "Oh, suddenly we're getting all this stuff because of you, bloody clairvoyant." He doesn't say that. So yeah, this decade-spanning case, brutal murder suicides. No one can work out how it's happened, and I think already as Lee Harker is trying to sort of come up with concepts at this stage or theories, she's like something made the father do it. Um,
Yeah, even there's no
in
evidence
some
that
way.
Longlegs has ever been in the house. We have these letters,
Yeah,
so
that's right.
they know Longlegs is a guy that is part of this, but no evidence he's ever been in the house.
There's this cryptic satanic coding which nobody has been able to work out in this whole time. No one. All the letters are signed long legs, but there's no sign of forced entry. There's no DNA of this killer at all. There's essentially nothing linking anyone else to the killings apart from this particular cipher, because the handwriting belongs to none of the victims, and there's no other forensic evidence at all. So it's not like a home invasion. It's just some strange kind of reminds me of, was there an episode of Sherlock where there was like a taxi driver who was like taking people somewhere and he was basically convincing them to kill themselves? He was like,
Oh,
I don't actually kill anyone. I just talk to them and then they kill themselves. And he takes like Sherlock on a drive somewhere. I can't remember exactly how it works.
I've not
Um,
seen those Benedict Cumberbatch Sherlocks.
oh yeah. Um, but yeah, it kind of reminded me of that in a way. So Lee is kind of on it straight away. She manages to connect the similarities
He puts all the
between the
clues on the
families.
floor,
She
has a little sleep.
puts all the clues on the floor, has a little sleep, goes for an awkward beer with Blair Underwood, and then he takes her back to meet his family, the daughter. The daughter says things like, "Is it scary being a lady FBI agent?" Bloody terrified, she says. She gets a birthday party invite. It's more birthday party invites than I get.
Yeah. I
Um,
feel like this one with the film, especially with the order it happens here, and this is not an issue with the film, it's an issue with people who watch as many films as perhaps as we do. The second the daughter is there that mentions a birthday, my head was like, well, her birthday's going to be the 14th, isn't it? This is happening.
yeah, it is tough not to do that, isn't it? It really,
Yeah.
really is.
Especially
Um,
as literally in the previous scene, it was, and the birthdays are all the 14th. Okay.
100%, exactly. Um, yeah, I mean, we get all the evidence sort of linking the ciphers. That's kind of all the evidence they've got, these ciphers. It's strange that no one's been able to pick them apart until Lee gets her old eyes on it. But when she does, she kind of works out that it's related to the Bible. Is that right
So
first?
she gets a letter. We have a creepy scene at her
Oh yeah. Now this is
house. A
good. So
couple of things
so
happen.
her
First
house,
things happens is
some
that
sort of cat.
she's
Sorry, go on.
well, she's on the phone to buddy Chekhov's mum. We'll get
Yeah.
back to that. Chekhov's mum's on the phone and she's saying, "Oh, what's she's talking to a mom who they seem to have like a slightly weird relationship. Already it comes up that their
Yeah.
conversations are kind of stunted and her mom clearly has maybe some sort of memory problems.
Yeah.
Um,
I
and
was
there are strange
thinking
things going on with her.
I was thinking it was like a bit of an estranged relationship. And yeah, maybe that she was, yeah, memory problems. I was thinking, could it be dementia or something like that initially? And almost like Lee feels responsible for her, but at the same time, she's a very career focused person, isn't she?
Yeah. She's on the phone to her, but then she has a bit of a spooking because there's someone outside. We see like a
Mm.
shape out in the woods because of course, like any FBI agent investigating creepy murders, lives in the middle of the woods on her own.
It's weird where she lives. She proper lives in like a cabin in the woods, right? Almost like that.
Yeah. A completely glass fronted cabin in the woods.
I mean, it's a lovely house, but it's strange. It's ever so dark in there as well. I was like, as soon as she goes in, I'm like, God, I'll put the big light on.
No one
Come
does
on.
that. Um
Well, I'll put the big light on. When you get back initially, put the big light on until you get comfy, got
when you're
everything you
working at your
need.
desk, that's fine.
That's fine. Yeah, exactly.
So
Um,
she gets in there and she gets left a note. She translates it pretty quickly and it's on an eighth birthday card.
yeah.
An
Ninth
eighth
birthday
birthday
card.
card, a ninth birthday card saying, well, it says at the beginning, but then she translates it and it says, listen, if you tell anyone where you got this card for, pretty gross. Says, I'll cut her bloody milky tits off or something like that. Literally, they're Longlegs' words, Ben, not
Oh
mine.
yeah, he does say that.
But
I'll cut her
he's
big. Is he talking about her mum?
yeah, he says in brackets, your mum, I mean.
Your
Um,
mum, I mean. And she went, I know.
I won't tell anyone I've got this letter then, I guess.
Yeah, kind of
Um,
creepy. What else do we have like a creepy note in a birthday card in recently? I feel like I've seen that birthday card, creepy note, something. I don't know. Maybe I imagine that, but still, I think it's a pretty good, effective way of delivering a note. She doesn't, to be fair, despite the fact she pretty much knows that Longlegs was in her house, she pretty much goes, "Well, he's gone now, so I'm just going to continue
yeah, we're going to.
sorting out this
Yeah,
cipher."
he wanted to give
And,
me this letter. If he wanted to kill me, he'd have done it. So I'll
yeah,
translate this letter. And I guess that's how she has the cipher to the end to be able to. And she literally, we're not skipping over this. She skips over it as well. The next time we see another murder has taken place, she goes, oh, I've translated it. It's that. And
it's literally as easy as that for her, isn't it? I've
yeah,
translated it, and a little
I
bit
can
later she
read
goes,
this now.
"I've translated them all now," and it is a bit like, "Oh, okay, I
That's
get
that
it."
puzzle solved then. All right.
I get it, but at the same time, I'm like, ah, I wanted more. Do you know what I mean? I wanted more of these ciphers. Now these ciphers haven't got as much impact because when they're delivered, she could just literally pick it up and go, "Oh yeah, Longlegs says, don't you bloody dare, you mug! I'm coming
Yeah.
for you."
I know your mum lives. I'll get her if you do anything. So I mean, she
Yeah,
never does reveal that part of it. So
yeah. Okay, then she manages to work out that essentially, when written out on a linear calendar, the dates of the murders form this kind of like occult symbol, inverted triangle thing. But there's one date missing to complete the shape, which is like coming up, or is that right? Coming up?
yeah, there's a missing spot, and there's also a logical beginning point that she sees from drawing this thing. I
Yeah.
feel like there's so much stuff in the Bible and other books of its time. You could
Yeah.
almost find a pattern for anything.
Yeah. Yeah. Like the bloody chimpanzees writing the bloody works of Shakespeare. Do you know what I mean?
The
If you
blurst of times.
um
I've got this pattern. I've got this pattern, boss. All right, let me have a look at that.
um
Get back to work.
there's a clue. There's another clue. And Lee and her supervisor, Carter. Oh yeah, so the clue that we start
That
linking it to she says there's one thing that seems to be mentioned all the time, and that is about the camera family. That's right, isn't it? The
yeah,
camera family, something
Cameron
happened in
family. He put a bloody Brexit vote off and then fucked off. He did. I'm going to sort this right out.
like um massacre at the farm or something like that, right?
Yeah, it was basically one of the murders. It's the ones where it all began, and loads of the letters all mention. And a wicked time at the camera farm. That was the place to be,
Yeah.
honestly.
Camera farm
Um,
was 10 on 10. I
and
bloody
they've got
loved it
two.
there.
They've got two clues from that.
Have you
One,
noticed though, he has been writing these ciphers for all of these years, hoping that someone out there like starts to work it out and go, "Oh bloody hell, he's scary. This guy, he's mysterious." Not a single person has worked out in 30 years. He must be fuming,
yeah,
raging, because they
he's
all
been
like
hoping.
attention. They all like attention, don't they? These serial killers. That's the reason they do it. I reckon if I was a serial killer, I'm saying if Andy, I'd write a scary cipher, and if no one had worked out within a week, I'd like put it in a newspaper or something.
You'd be texting him. You worked that out yet? I can help you actually.
If it works out, I actually know the answer. Yeah, yeah.
Or the
You
next one
want
you do
to
would be the next one you do would be easier. You've like done the one you do at school where you just change like the letters for like a number.
Yeah, people are like, who's made this bloody cipher? An absolute moron.
Who's this? He signed the murder note from Mr. N. Barrington.
Who could it possibly be? No one would
Don't
know because
know. I'm
I
not sure how
wouldn't
we
be on their
cracked this
radar,
cipher.
mate. I wouldn't be on their radar. I'd be fine. Uh, okay, so yeah, they
I enclosed
essentially
a signed photograph. Man that looks like this, but the only bloke that looks like this from our records is a guy called Ben Errington. And it's not him,
It's not him.
obviously.
It's not him. It can't be him.
They'll come and
Um,
interview you. Ben, have you ever seen a man that looks a bit like you and has got a different name? Nah,
no,
sorry, can't help you.
don't know who that is. Can't be. Um, okay. So they follow this clue. They go to the farm? They go to the farm first, or do they go
Well,
to
they
see
get
the
two clues.
survivor?
Yeah, they basically have a survivor. She's
Again,
in
this is
an asylum.
this is like Alan Wake. If you had two clues, you can decide which order you go and work them out.
Yeah, they choose to go to the farm first, and there's no one there anymore. But in a big spooky barn, up some dark, dark stairs, there's a very well lit loft. Under the cross of Jesus, there is a little dolly buried in there.
There's a box with a creepy dolly. There's like X marks the spot, or there's loads of X's on the wall. Okay, we get it. And then inside the doll's head, because they take it to see
You know, the weirdest is of all these characters, Ben, it's this pathologist who's like
this pathologist.
a master craftsman, but this beautiful dolly that someone's made. Steady on, mate.
What does he say? He says something really weird at one point. He
Oh,
goes, "Oh, I was thinking
exquisite craftsmanship.
it's absolutely delightful. This metal ore, but I took it out of the dolly's head and I put it into my bottom for a couple of hours just to see
And
how
he
it sat in there."
keeps saying my ex-wife's name, but it's probably just me
Oh
imagining it. I'm like,
yeah. Excuse
what's
me.
this fella?
I mean, you'd follow that up, wouldn't you? You wouldn't go, "That's weird." Why did
Yeah,
they take
on the
this?
way out
Why
of
did
the
they take a?
mortuary, he'd be like, "Have HR, have a word with this fella, will you?" He's
Why
a
did they take a doll to see the pathologist? Can you explain that?
body shaped in it.
Excuse me, I found this teddy bear. I found this teddy bear. I just took it to the veterinarian because he's going to know more about bears than anyone else. You
Yeah,
know what I
yeah,
mean?
literally because it's a human shape. You have a look at this. Pretend it's an autopsy, but just do it on this here dolly. Not just not just a normal police person. I'll have a look in this dolly for you, shall I?
Have a look.
Oh, wait. I tell you
Uh,
what, there's one thing as well when we see about the metal ball from the dolly's brain.
hmm,
When Lee touches it, sees there's a red
yeah,
snakes in the
that's
brain.
right. Yeah. Were you going to elaborate on that? Or are you just saying
No,
it's
that's all that
weird?
happens actually. We just see a vision of some red snakes.
That that is probably the only kind of like vision slash dream stuff we get, and I feel like that's enough. I feel like it's good enough. The sound design is really good. It's effective. I'm into it. Okay. I don't Lee's theory now is that each family received a similar doll from Longlegs, and he has been infusing the orbs within the dolls, with some sort of evil energy that can possess and influence those near it. I kind of feel like if this is your first real theory, it needs to be wrong in some way in
Yeah.
order for the film to continue to have legs, long legs. I feel like that is kind of it, right? That is kind of
And
mostly it.
the thing that gets me about it is there is no real challenging of this as a theory. Obviously, we're in a world where the FBI, are very accepting and having a testing mechanism to understand that someone can be clairvoyant.
Hmm.
Um, so straight away, when Lee's theory is, infuses the dollies with evil energies,
We kind of
of
need
course.
we need
In
a
other news,
Scully.
Sky Blue.
We need a Scully to her Mulder. Somebody to say, "Okay, Spooky Lee
I don't know
Harker."
about this, Mulder. Every time.
Yeah, exactly. We need that, but we don't get it, and that's a little bit disappointing. Um, so then we go to visit the institutionalized sole survivor of the Longlegs killings at that farm. Um, and when they go and visit her, the how would we say this? The head honcho man. Who is
Has
he?
just been to visit and is signed in very cheeky of him. He is signed Lee Harker as the. Just hang on, that's my bloody name.
That's my bloody name. How does he know your name then? Um, Signed in as Lee Harker, come to visit the sole survivor, and the sole survivor person has like completely. So it's Carrie Ann Camera, played by. Do you recognize her?
No, who's this?
The new Sabrina the Teenage Witch,
Oh, I've not seen that. Okay, I'm forgiving
Kernan
myself for that one.
Brennan's Shipka. Um, she is like snapped out of her like
She's been in a
mental
catatonic state for
catatonic
years.
state, and she's absolutely fine now. Tickety boo. And Lee goes and talks directly to her, essentially, and discovers.
She's not
Well, yeah,
quite
what kind
tickety
of?
boo though. She's basically
No, not entirely.
she's got taught like Gollum disease, hasn't she? Um, because she goes, "Oh, I'll put your bloody eyes out if he told me to."
Yeah, basically, I'll do anything for Longlegs. If you try and come at me, I'll put your eyes out and I'll do anything for him. I love Longlegs.
If you say anything about Longlegs, if actually like if Longlegs said I should jump out the window, I'd do it. Happy as peaches I'd be, as I'd smash my face into the ground. Or if Longlegs said to kill you, I'd come at you. I'd come at you strong, and I've got some powerful new moves that you'd be unable to resist. But I'm an FBI agent here. You come at me saying that you'd be able to have me if Longlegs said.
Yeah, you've been in a catatonic state for all this time. I bet you hadn't done a lick of exercise. You'd be blowing before you know it.
Just been sitting there tensing like Michael Myers was.
Oh yeah, he loved doing that.
Tensing for 20 years.
He is,
Absolutely stacked.
to be fair though, he is built like a brick shit house, a shit brick house. So he's done it. Um, what happens? How does this kind of end? She just leaves, doesn't she? And then
She just goes,
it,
"Oh,
it
Longlegs came to see me." We asked the She asked they asked the administrator, "Do you not check people's ID?" And he goes, "That sounds like a brilliant idea, actually, but no."
yeah, I kind of like
I
that.
love
I
him.
thought I
He's
thought
great. He's my
that
favorite character.
I thought that was kind of funny because again, incompetence does exist, and when it isn't present in some films, it can be a little bit like not as believable. I feel like something like that makes it feel a little bit more realistic.
He's like, "Oh, sounds like a really good idea. It's not actually our policy though, so we don't bother with that."
Yeah, exactly.
Um. So yeah. So this woman is clearly like, and Leah's theorizing that we have an accomplice, and based on these ideas and like the fact that that her name appeared in the diary and Longlegs clearly knows it, they start to worry. Carter starts to worry that like, have you got some sort of bloody connection with Longlegs? Will you
Mm.
go and chat to your mom about that? Why don't you? Because he realizes that her birthday's on the 14th.
Yeah, her birthday's on the 14th. Then they check Lee's like records essentially, and there was an instance of when she was a little kid that her mum reported a intruder in the house.
The day before
But
her
then
birthday.
day before her birthday, and Lee doesn't remember it at all. So she goes to visit her mum, Ruth, played by Alicia Witt, unrecognizable in this role, which was great. Her mum is like a hoarder, you would say, wouldn't you? She
She's a big
hoarded a
old
load of
hoarder,
stuff.
yeah.
Big old hoarder, but this is also relevant to the way this story progresses because the fact that she's a hoarder meant that she's kept everything, meant that she's kept all of Lee's belongings, including some photos she took a
With a
particular
Polaroid camera.
that very day, and then we
Does it
cut.
sort of it maps against her memory as well, or is it because her mom sort of explains that she has basically coped with her life by remembering nothing, but
Yeah,
she's kept everything.
yeah, that's essentially it, isn't it? Yeah. Um, so eventually she goes to like a chest in her room, finds like a little pile of Polaroid pictures, easy for you to say, and one of the pictures is a photo of Longlegs, and then we cut back to that opening sequence. And again, we don't get a good look at his face. We still only see it from the nose down, but we get a little bit of an elaboration on that scene. Her mum comes over and interrupts, sort of says, like, who the hell are you? What do you want? Go away. She obviously, Lee took a photo of him directly. So now she's literally got a photo of Longlegs in the 90s that she can go and take to her superiors and say, got him.
Got him. This is the guy, and I think at this point we have seen a little bit more of Longlegs, and obviously this is a new film we saw at cinemas, so unlike a film we watch at home, I haven't got the benefit of being able to pause and go back and
Rewind.
write notes. But we've had a moment, I think, where we've seen Longlegs in the modern era. We've had a slightly better look, but not perfect look at him
He's dressed like
going into a shop
He's dressed like what's his name, Big Lebowski, in his
yeah,
little house coat, walking around. He goes into a shop, is like not terrorizing, but just being weird
he's getting some
with
dolly. He's off to get some dolly bits, isn't he?
I need some dolly bits. He does a weird sort of little hands over the face thing, which is good for the film. Don't get to see his face. And the girl behind the counter says, "Dad or Mum, the
His
weird
dad,
guy's here again."
that weird man's here again. I was gonna, when's your birthday?
Oh
That's
yeah,
good.
it's your birthday coming up, is it?
She goes, "Pa, that weird man's here again." And then you see him doing some glam rock on the way home, and he goes like,
Mommy, Daddy. Yeah, yeah. I mean, he's chewing the scenery, isn't he? Despite the fact we still haven't got a good look at his face dead on. This is kind of like different, his side
sort of
profile.
sideways in his car, having a lovely
Hmm.
shout, um, singing his glam metal.
So she takes the photo to the FBI, says, "This is him. Bring him in." How did they make that connect? How did they work out who he is from that point and like manage to?
Like I say, Ben, this guy's on a bloody list, isn't he? Like
Yeah, 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 exactly.
someone like that lives anywhere near you. They know. It's
Yeah.
like popping around his
Um,
house as if he's green grass every time the slightest thing
bloody
has
green
gone wrong.
grass. There's a couple of interesting bits from here on out. So obviously he's like getting ready to go on the bus, which is weird because he's definitely got a car.
With his
Um,
suitcases, because you see him get up and he goes, right, sorry, I'm gonna pack just my dolly bits, but no time to pack my Mark Bolan
yeah.
poster. I've got
But we
a
we obviously we do see a few moments of him like in what looks like his like where he lives. It kind of does look like a basement. Obviously, that is very key to how the story unravels as well. He's living on looks like a mattress on the floor. Everything's like lit in red. He's doing a lot of dolly things. He's got a lot of knickknacks hanging around everywhere. But yeah, he's about to get on the bus, and the police surround him. And this is the
yes,
first
but
time
he
we get a
gets
good
lifted. Yeah,
get a good look at his face. He gets lifted, puts his hands up. He does like give up, doesn't he?
yeah.
And then the next thing we see is a videotape recording of him being interrogated and just chatting on, essentially. Lee
About Lee
says
Harker,
about Lee Harker. How much longer is this going for? I kind
20
of like
minutes,
this
20 minutes
because
of him
there's,
singing Happy Birthday, they say, as they pause the
sh
video.
oh yeah, she says, "Where is he?" He says, they say, literally directly underneath you, under your feet, which is interesting in the way a reveal happens a little bit later on, and the fact that he's always referring to the man downstairs. Obviously, people are going, "Who do you mean? Who's the man downstairs?" We know he means. He means Big Red himself, old Satanus, um, Beelzebub. Who else?
Old Lucifer.
Old Lucy Goosey Fur. He's down there and he's constantly muttering hell Satan to himself as well. So it's a
Yeah.
bit cut and dry. I kind of thought, is it a misdirection? Are we supposed to think Satan, 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 when really maybe it's not?
It's Death Adder, the baddie from Golden Axe.
Golden Axe.
It's just,
Bloody- it's a Golden Axe movie. This is after all. I thought it
yeah,
was.
it's no, there's no misdirect. And I think at this point as well, we've started to see some more of the imagery. There's been a bit where Lee looked up out of the window, and we see when she's doing some research in the library, just when she started to get the picture together and begin to get those images. There's been a bit where she's looked out the window, and it's like the devil just
Hmm.
appeared in the woods again, like a
Yeah.
proper, like classic, oh, big old horns devil.
Hmm.
Um, and we've started to see now we've seen more of the dollies and the influence they have. He always puts like a cloth over the dolls' heads before they're revealed, and they have like a glowing
Glowing
red
eyes.
eyes
Yeah.
to them. Um,
It's got the bloody demon in there. It's got the old essence of demon.
well,
Like you put.
when you follow the simple manufacturing process that allows you to imbue evil energies into a metal head, where did he get that from? It's the 90s. There's no YouTube tutorials then that he could
He
sit and
just
watch.
knows. He just knows, mate. He's been born.
Yeah,
He
people
knows.
were more capable
Um,
back then, weren't they?
Lee goes and like faces him. I think he asks to see her, doesn't he? And you know what? We get a bit of a reveal, but he is kind of still speaking in riddles, and obviously Lee doesn't fully understand what he's on about because she doesn't fully remember him or everything that's happened before this. Um, I don't know. I was a bit disappointed by the way this kind of panned out. We get a good look at his face, of course. We get,
Stunning
and
performance though as well. He moves in such a jerky way.
yeah, I think performance was great. The script, it was written really well. I don't know. I think in terms of the plot and the way the story progressed, him just violently slamming his face onto the table and killing himself. Don't know how I felt about that. I
He
kind of
Skeletors himself,
wanted
doesn't he? Bashes his nose right in.
Skeletor's himself, and this again is something that's very very prevalent in modern horror as well. Hereditary, smashing your face on the table. I think we get a lot of it in what of that. That's one example I know. But even something like Midsummer, jumping off a cliff, smashing your face onto something
Yeah.
to death. We get a lot of it. It's very intense, and obviously we even though we do focus on it for a while, it's Lee's reaction, sort of back against the wall, flecks of blood on her face that is very, very impactful. Um,
I tell you what though,
and
Ben. Um, I'm not a professional um special agent myself. Certainly not one that's clairvoyant, and I've never claimed to be one of those things. But from a mile away, I was thinking he's going to bash his head in the table. You got plenty of choice. Whack a cushion under there, quick.
yeah, quickly sling a cushion just as he goes to do it. Just sling a cushion as quickly as possible onto it, but no,
Or just
gives him the
slide the table
chance.
out the way, push him over.
I think he'd do it once, and you'd run over and try and stop
I
him, right?
don't do that, idiot.
Don't do that. Imagine the paperwork, for God's sake. It's around about this time he's having a conversation with her that she starts to think about her mum's involvement. I can't remember exactly what Longlegs says, but essentially, the end of this, she
Something
thinks
how you've
there must
remembered
be
and
an
how you forgot,
accomplice.
and yeah, there must
Yeah,
be an accomplice, and Chekhov's mom is about to go off.
Chekhov's mum's got to be a bloody accomplice. So after this, um, Lee drives to her house. She takes FBI agent Browning. We've not mentioned Agent Browning, but she's kind of been ever present alongside Blair Underwood's Agent Carter in kind of unpicking this. But she drives Lee to her mum's house because she's
Basically,
like,
after
you
after
can't
what you've
drive.
seen, you ain't driving home after
Yeah,
you've seen a man smash his face in on the table.
yeah. Um, Lee goes in looking for her mum. Obviously, can't find her. TV's bloody blaring. And
Bloody
suddenly,
hell, turn it off
I
if you're
thought
not watching it.
I thought this was an effective scare. We see FBI agent Browning in the car, and then suddenly there's a shape behind her, slowly approaching. Is it obvious that it's Lee's mum at this stage?
Oh, I mean,
It's just
I'm not
somebody
gonna
like,
say I'm Columbo here, Ben, but I think at this point I'd
yeah.
fairly well tumbled that her mom is going to be the accomplice.
So her mum is all dressed in nunnery garb. That's not correct. What could I say? Cloth of the god, cloth,
But she's not
cloth of
got a
the
full
god.
nun's habit on. She's just got like
Well,
a
she's a nun.
headscarf, hasn't she?
She's a Satan nun. She's one of them Satan nuns. So she shotguns FBI agent Browning to death. That gunshot alerts Lee. She runs to the window. The image behind you looks out of the window. It's one that's on the posters as well, and is shocked to see a double tap from her mum as well, shooting
Just in case her
Agent
head wasn't blown
Browning
off
just in
enough.
case. Obviously now Lee knows she needs to take her mum down essentially, or I don't think she wants to kill her, but she definitely wants to try to apprehend her. She runs out, tells her mum Longlegs is dead. It's all over.
And she sort of
It's
like looks at her and says, "Well, thank goodness for that, because if your friend, there is a dolly of Lee from when she was a kid, standing there in the middle of the garden. And she goes, well, if you're free now, well, if he's dead, then you're free as well." And then she blows the dolly's head off, and we see like the wisps of evil energy
yeah,
disappear, and also something sort of evaporates out of Lee as well, and she
mm,
collapses.
yeah, very, very interesting. She loses consciousness, and then now something in a lesser film, I would have found this like the exposition dump from Ruth a bit heavy-handed, but I feel like the way the mystery of this film hasn't really been given us anything. We've just been given tiny little snippets of things to try and put together. It needs something like this to kind of tie it together. Whether I think that's a good choice or not, but I feel like this film needed it. Ruth reveals she's been Longlegs' accomplice all along. When Lee had an encounter with him all those years ago, he returned in the night. He subdued Ruth, tied her up, and force it says forced her to make a choice, but I feel like she offered this. She said, "Don't murder my daughter. I'll basically do your bidding. I'll be your accomplice
Oh, that'll be
from now
killed
on."
loads of people.
I hope you kill loads of people if you just don't kill my daughter.
And
And
you can
she,
live in my basement rent free and make satanic
do
dollies.
you not feel like that this completely missed a trick by not having an amazing, massive reveal of her realizing that that was where Longlegs was in the basement? It feels like her just kind of waking up in the basement when we've already kind of worked it out. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? It
I
didn't have
think
anywhere near as much. The fact
especially with
that,
the way the house was set up with all the hoarding, like,
yeah,
the fact
close
you could have had it
quarters.
that like maybe when the wispy magic went out of her, that she all of a sudden, rather than collapsing, she came to a realization, because it talked about how the influence of the magic basically made her,
Forget
it
stuff.
helped
Yeah.
her see certain things, helped her not see other things. She could remember that there was, hang on, there's a bloody door to the basement in our house that's been
Yeah.
buried under some of the hoarding stuff, and you could have had her digging
Yeah.
her
Oh,
way
I
through.
love it, man. I love it. And a little flashback to her saying to the FBI agents, "Where is he now? He's literally right below your feet." She looks at her feet. She looks up, moves some stuff away, finds a door, goes down there. Do you know what? Yes. That
And that would be his
missed the
base, and that would
trick.
be maybe how she finds, maybe a mom could have been missing, and then she could have gone down there and then heard the gunshot and come out. Like that, you could have just a slight restructure, and that might have paid off. Or what? I'm not
I
claiming
love it, man.
I'm as good a writer and director as the makers of this film. I think that would have just worked a little better for me personally.
Yeah, because as I said before, I feel like that was what it was missing. It was missing a, oh my God. I think a lot of films are missing that. I don't feel like I need that in all films. I totally understand when it's not there, but in terms of a twist, it doesn't have to be like a ridiculous twist, like he was a bloody ghost all along, or this is a beach that makes you get old. It doesn't have to be a ridiculous twist, but I just like an attempt to try and blindside your audience with something. And if they've worked it out previously before, then great. But if not, it's so impactful, and I feel like yeah, missed a trick. Um, yeah. So essentially, what her mum Ruth's been doing is taking this like doll that Longlegs has made, taking it to various houses just before their birthday, or is it just before their birthday?
Yeah, and
And
she's a
saying,
trusted, because she's a nun and a nurse, she's like a trusted person. If she comes to the house of someone and says, "Oh, you've won a raffle at the church," couldn't do that in these days. I didn't enter a raffle, mate. So you have to my bank account details.
But but kids are gonna want that a doll of themselves. That's cool, and I think anyone would like that. If you had a little action figure of yourself and you're a kid, you'd love it. And same with a bloody dolly. But here's where something doesn't quite add up for me, right? So they talk about no sign of a forced entry. Get it? Absolutely zero evidence that anyone else was there. But her mum was there, and her
Yeah.
mum sat there and watched. So why wasn't there any evidence? And this got me thinking about things like, how she talks about how Longlegs talks about not seeing some things and forgetting other things. I almost feel like they could have elaborated on this a bit more, that somehow this satanic energy is eluding the police in a way because it makes them go into this crime scene where this crime's been committed, and you don't see certain things because of the way this satanic energy has committed the crime. So it does look like the perfect crime because the pathology, the sort of, what word am I thinking of? The
But like the pathology of it, the
yeah,
like the evidence is just missing.
because otherwise it feels like a bit of a plot hole to suggest that there's no evidence
This
there.
same nurse has been at all these murders,
But
and
she's been there at all the murders, and if she just dropped the doll off and went away, then I could
yeah.
but also she always took the doll away. So the doll was never found. I feel like, and again, feel free to shut me down. If there was absolutely no um evidence of anything, these families have been killed, but all of these families, a creepy doll had been found there,
A creepy doll
looking
that looked like the
looking
daughter.
exactly like the daughter, and that was what linked it together. I don't know. I find that, oh wow, oh, what could that mean? Weird.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And
Um,
maybe the metal ball always disappeared or something like that. And then that could give them a clue when they do find the one where the girl is still alive in the attic that's buried away. They'll be like, oh, there's a metal ball in this one and there's just a hole in all the others.
Yeah,
Maybe that
exactly.
burns away when the devil comes out.
I think we're just that's what we hope to have seen when
Welcome to the
because I
horror workshop, everybody, where we,
horror workshop, but
where
you
we,
know because it was missing something, wasn't it?
yeah, for me it was missing a little something. Um, and it's basically happening again. So when, like, what we do get, take our theories out the window, that when when Lee wakes up, she's got a phone call. Don't know who's ringing. The devil says you're late for Ruby's party. She races round there,
Kind
and
of devil.
Carter's already possessed, even though he builds up to, and we all know. I think this was I feel like we're piling on a bit in the end in here, but this is where I think films live or die. In this one, we've seen Lee be she is really quite stoic and like unmoved by a lot of quite serious or traumatic things that happen, and she
Yeah,
is someone who takes action. She is presented with a fairly significant opportunity to do something here.
yeah,
Um, she could have come in and done something that maybe would have stopped some of the elements that now go down, whether it was
mm-hmm.
to immediately try and destroy the doll or to try and intervene with the family. What happens is they sort of have an awkward conversation where Carter, I mean, the family are already all acting very
Yeah,
strangely. It's not only the father that commits the murders, but the daughter is like catatonic just looking at the doll, and the wife seems non-resistant in getting involved. She's like, "Oh, you know, but they say, oh, is it time for you to go and get a knife from the kitchen?" He's like, "Oh, it is. Um, are you gonna? You should come with me." And she goes, "Oh, we'll be right back." "Oh, no, no, I'll be right back. You'll still be in the kitchen." So, and they're saying all this through gritted teeth as if they have maybe some awareness of what's going on, but no
yeah. No
autonomy
control.
in
Yeah.
what's happening. Um, and Ruth, the mother, uh, is like I said, just don't interfere, all right? Because it's fucked if you spoil this.
Yeah.
This is the completion of the triangle, completion of the symbol that was drawn through the pattern of the murders. We hear um we hear the like Carter kill his wife in the kitchen, the screaming. He then
Yeah.
charges back in. Um, Lee does shoot him dead at this point, followed
Mm-hmm.
by shooting a mom uh, right through the
Straight
old noggin.
right for the old noggin. Yeah.
And she tries to bring Ruby away, but she is, again, she's still sort of catatonic looking at this doll.
Mm-hmm.
And then as we close, she tries to shoot the doll's head, but the gun then
Yeah.
jams.
Interesting. Interesting. Gun jams. Um,
You thump it, wouldn't you? Gotta bust it another way then. Cheers.
you would. I think you would. You just thump it to death.
Yeah.
100%. Um, yeah. And then we we get like we hear Longlegs singing "Happy Birthday" again. Um, and the film cuts back to the interrogation room where Longlegs is um being creepy
Blowing everyone a
and
kiss, isn't he?
he says "Hail Satan" and blows everybody a kiss. Felt a bit on the nose him actually saying "Hail Satan," but I get it. This is the thing. All of this stuff, I get it. I like it, but I also think it isn't my choice. But I'm not making films, so there we go.
Yeah.
I'm just bloody reviewing them every week. There we go, Andy. That's long legs. Have you got any name game?
Do some off the top of the dome for you, I reckon, Ben. Nice rhymey word like long legs.
Oh yeah,
What's the synopsis we
exactly.
got here?
In the pursuit of a serial killer, an FBI agent uncovers a series of occult clues that she must solve to end his terrifying killing spree.
Okay. In pursuit of a serial killer, an FBI agent needs to hang out some evidence photographs to dry in the dark room, except she's made the wrong selection down at Wilco's, and they're completely wrong. They're completely the incorrect material, and they spoil the photos as she hangs them up.
For God's sake. Wrong something.
Yeah. Can't hang those photos up correctly. The items she uses to put them up, they don't grip them very well. They get spoiled.
Wrong pegs.
Wrong pegs.
Very nice. Um, okay, FBI agent Harker gets up in the morning, walking down the stairs. Hear like a clink clank of glass going on. What's going on? She looks down. And from from the waist down are various large glass pipes used to smoke. This is a dream sequence, by the way.
Yeah.
Used to smoke various cannabis or other.
Is it bong legs?
Bong legs, got a bloody bong legs on, haven't you? This is a dream sequence, by the way. It's not a very realistic film.
Okay,
I got a
so
bong legs on, gotta wake up.
after bong legs, Lee Harper, an FBI agent, investigating some serial murders, and she eventually uncovers the culprits are Markle and the Stallion using their incredible physical prowess to subdue their victims.
Markle and like Angela Markle.
No, there's another famous one with that last name.
Markle and the Stallion. You have to
Yeah,
give me a
Markle and the
clue.
Stallion. There's two of them. Markle and the Stallion, and there's a third one, Griffin. This gang of people, they're using their incredible physical prowess to subdue their victims.
Strong legs?
They're strong, but they're not legs.
Strong. I
All these women have got the same first name.
Strong Megs.
Strong Megs. Very good.
Meghan Markle. There we go. What what did you say? You said Markle, and then what was the other one you said?
The stuff that Meg
Griffin.
Meg Griffin, that's it.
Ah, I was not on the same wavelength as you whatsoever. Angela Merkel is what I meant as well, wasn't it? You said Markle, then I was like, excuse me?
Markle.
What's going on here? Who's that? Um, okay. When they bloody arrest Longlegs, did you know this? Did you? I don't even notice this, but when they bloody arrest him, they were like, "Oh, something absolutely stinks in here. What's going on?" And he's like, "Sorry, it is my legs."
Is it good old good old pong legs?
Your legs absolutely reek. What's going on there? Well, they're incredibly long, and it's very difficult to maintain an even and regular clean on them
Can't
because
reach
they're
from the knees
so
below.
long.
Got
Can't reach
pong
from the knees
legs.
below. So my knee pits are absolutely are absolutely stinking. The old
Ponging.
knee pits. Any more?
Right, have I got any more after? Can I match pong legs?
I got one. I don't mean to jump in there. I don't want to
Go on then.
forget
No,
it.
go on. You can do it.
When they have you noticed when they arrested old Longlegs, brought him in? As they brought him in, suddenly there was a massive deafening noise. Sounded like a big old cymbal being whacked. Like, what's going on there? And he went, I just banged my knee
That's
on
what
the
it's
edge of
going
the
for.
table.
Gong legs.
It's bloody Kong legs, isn't it? Jesus Christ. I'm surprised you got away with this for as many years as you did. Because those legs are
Always
loud.
announcing when you're coming and going.
Always announcing exactly when you're coming and going.
Oh, there you go. That's excellent work.
Is that it? Is that what you got?
Yeah.
You got to have another. You got to have another one.
That's all the satanic magic I've got for today, I
What?
think.
Last one then.
Go on then,
Last
one
one.
more.
Uh, breakfast time at the Longlegs household. Um,
Yeah.
what are you doing there? What are you making? Well, you can have them scrambled, you can have them fried. But I have to admit, I don't know if it's an ostrich one or something because look at the bloody leg for this one. An ostrich
Pretty
egg.
long eggs.
It's bloody long eggs, isn't it?
I tell you what, then Ben, you've given me the time. I've got one more. Um, an FBI agent goes to investigate a a death, a different case this time, however, and
God.
investigating the victim found at the bottom of the Empire State Building. She theorizes that it was not, in fact, the planes that were the cause of death, but beauty that killed this particular beast after he after he broke his legs falling off the Empire State Building to death.
For fuck's sake. Falling off the Empire State Building to death. Start again, Andy.
So, investigating this murder,
Yep.
Lee Harker finds the victim at the bottom of the Empire State Building in a massive crater. And actually,
Yeah.
she uses her gifts of foresight to say, wasn't the airplanes shooting him that made him die? It was the beautiful woman in his hand, and he broke
Long
those
legs.
Kong legs,
I
King
focused
Kong
on the wrong
legs.
bit. What I tend to do, and this is why I sometimes end up completely gazumped. I focus on the wrong bit. I'll focus on one bit and I'll go Empire State Building, fell off the Empire State Building. And then the end bit you describe, I kind of just tail off and don't remember. Okay, one more from me and then we're done. Done?
Okay, yeah.
In pursuit of a serial killer, an FBI agent uncovers a series of occult clues that she must solve to end to end the terrifying killing spree. And the clues seem to point to a late 90s R&B singer-songwriter. And they draft in Cisco to try and find the clue that revolves around his biggest hit.
Is it the thong 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 legs?
Nearly,
The
it's the
thong
Fong
song
song.
legs.
The Fong song legs. Thong, 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 thong. And he had
There
a
you go.
picture of He had a picture of Cisco on his wall, not Mark Bolan. Okay,
Picture of Cisco. Very good.
so now we have to rate the movie. A to F. Pluses and minuses are allowed. Rate good or rate bad. This is a difficult one, but where would you like to fall on
You
this
know,
one?
Ben, I think there's room for it to I think there's room for it to grow. We'll see what happens, but right now I'm gonna land on a B minus. I think it is a very well acted film, a very well constructed film, a very thematic, uncomfortable and atmospheric watch, but from a story and a mystery element,
Mm.
there are bits of it that maybe let me down a little bit on that one. I would have just like, just that structure, just that gasp of the reveal that you've mentioned in in some of the other reviews and some of the unpicking of it that we have done. And I agree with my friend Connor, who I saw this with as well. I would have liked to have been more of a party to
Mm.
solving some of the areas of the mystery rather than just witnessing, oh, they just did it, I guess. Um,
Yeah. It was
yeah, and
bloody.
there are things to it that definitely work in its favor, like some of the dreamlike qualities that you're sort of allowed to have skated through those things, but it's unfortunate and as much on me as it is the film as well, but I didn't I did see this one coming a little bit,
Mm.
like with with the mum that was going to be involved. I think by the second time we'd spoken to her, I was like, ah, okay, so you've got a hand to play in this because you just are very strange straight
Yeah,
from the off.
exactly. Um,
How about you?
do you know what? So close, but so far. I feel like this absolutely had, it could have easily been like one of my favorites of the year. I feel like just out of everything we discussed, it was just missing a certain something. I love the vibes, I love the performances, I love the cinematography, I love the setting, I love the kind of dreamlike qualities, I love the otherworldly nature of it. This weird kind of like almost science fiction. It's a very interesting world to be in. I just feel like the plot, it took some big leaps. Perhaps it needed that mystery to unravel in a much more interesting and compelling way. Do you know what I mean? It's tough not to compare it to things like Silence of the Lambs, Zodiac, Seven, films that have this third act that is stressful, you know? You're along for the ride thinking, what the hell is gonna happen? Unfortunately, there's a moment early on in this film where Detective Lee Harker kind of just says, I reckon it's this. And it just turns out it is that. I just don't feel like with a thriller, that is always the most interesting direction for it to go. It's like, oh, how did that happen? It happened this way. Yeah, but why? Just because. And I feel
Yeah,
like that it
because
doesn't quite,
Satan.
because Satan, and that doesn't quite, maybe this guy thinks he's working on behalf of Satan, but he's not. You know, who's the evil one? Maybe the mum is the evil one, causing all this stuff to happen. You know,
Yeah,
there could have been at least four or five other directions to take it. And I think the biggest crime this film makes is taking a big swing and a miss for what could have easily been a great reveal, which is
yeah.
Longlegs is living in your own bloody basement. What a reveal that could have been, and I'm just frustrated that we didn't get the reaction was, oh, okay, so he's in the basement, rather than,
Yeah.
oh my God, he's in the fucking basement, which is what I
Yeah.
wanted to do.
And maybe that's the other thing as well. Like I think we're hitting religious horror hard this year, and obviously every film exists on its own. Would I have found this maybe more frightening and more compelling had we
Mm.
eventually had that supernatural element of it unpicked and it end up being,
Yeah.
oh no, it's just that people are evil and there are terrible people,
Mm.
rather than there's definitely a Satan, he can do magic and he can make these things glow and everything like that. The
Yeah.
maybe that just didn't quite hit right for me because people say that, Devil's biggest trick was making people believe he didn't exist. Well, he's tricked me, Ben, because I don't think he's real.
I'm still kind of like fascinated in everything to do with the film though, like reading theories, kind of like reliving moments. Kind of, I think all the visuals of the film are amazing. Like I just there's so much that can be done with these visuals. Like it's so cool. I already can't wait to see like what the Blu-ray release or the 4K DVD releases. I've seen like the vinyl soundtrack and that. It's all great. I feel like the only piece of the puzzle that's missing was the story for me, just a little bit, the plot. So I'm only going to go for a B plus. I was kind of sitting on an A minus for a while, but I feel like the more and more I thought about it, the more I'm like, I am kind of left a little bit frustrated. So there we go.
Often the case with us, right, Ben? We talk each other up or down between a plus and a minus over the course of an episode.
Exactly. Exactly. There we go. Okay. So that is Longlegs. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the show, become a patron over at patreon.com/horror hangout. Thanks to all of our patrons over there. Thanks to Taj Easton for our theme music. Thanks to Acast for hosting the show. Please consider giving us a rating or review. Head over to the Facebook group Horror Hangout Board of Advisors for more. We're on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube as well. Just search Horror Hangout Podcast. You'll find us next week. We're discussing In a Violent Nature. And as far as I'm aware, another film that is another new film that is vastly divided opinion. Looking forward to it.
Looking forward to this one. Another new one for thing, and then we're going to finish the month with a classic. So a powerful summer
Yeah,
so far,
of
Ben.
course. A hella incredibly powerful summer. And then next month, bloody Fright Fest. Can you believe it? Next
Yeah, we're
already?
heading into festival season. Yeah, I cannot wait. We've got some exciting times coming ahead. So stick with us here on Horror Hangout. Chuck us a
Stick
review
with
if you
us.
fancy it. We've got plenty to give you.
Chuck us a rating or review, and we'll be here every single week. New horror, old horror, good horror, bad horror. We're covering it all.
That's it.
Uh,
Be amongst
thank.
it. Take care, everybody. If you do get a birthday card and your birthday's around, oh, it's the 14th yesterday at time of recording.
Oh
So
my
we're in the
God.
danger zone for when Longlegs might come a knocking. So be careful out there. Do take Polaroid photos of any creepy people that come around in case you need it to jog your memory later on.
Mm.
And people lot say you've won a raffle. They've got a sort of dolly shaped box to put in your house.
Dolly shaped box.
Turn it down.
I
No
don't
good's
trust
going to come of it.
nuns. I've never trusted nuns, so I'll be fine. Right.
Never trust nuns bearing gifts, everyone. Bye.
See you later.